Hello and welcome back to Catch and Cook California. I'm Dr. Kev. Today I'm joined by my brother Justin once again, and this is the Wasteland Survival Challenge. So on this challenge we got to go 3 days, and all we can bring is a baseline kit. We get to decide what we want to bring. Everything else is stuff that we found. We got some pretty killer finds. I was pretty stoked on my homemade slingshot. That is until Justin found this at the bottom of the river.
Yeah, 177 caliber pellet gun.
So, we'll go into what this challenge entails. We're not going to be able to fish on this trip. There's no rivers, there's no creeks out here. We're actually going to dig for water. This will all be hunting and foraging, but if we don't catch and cook or forage and cook something, we got to do this all over again. Join us. Wolf Cry's proposed kind of wasteland survival challenge was like you start with whatever base kit you want to start with, and then you kind of branch out from there. And so, Justin, you started with your dive kit, right? Like your dive gear.
Yeah.
And so a lot of this stuff you were able to find in the river that gets abandoned, right?
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to start out with the dive kit was it gave me a place to look for stuff that most people can't look for, right? So like, you know, if this pellet gun was left out in the woods, someone else would have got it before I got it.
For sure. Oh, and another part of that was Wolf Cry also said if you find something and somebody else wants it, you can trade for something else, right?
Yeah.
And so you were able to trade an axe for pellets or something?
Traded a hatchet for pellets, and the other thing he said is you can't buy anything. So there's no Amazon. You know, you can't buy stuff.
And obviously my kit's not nearly as cool as his kit. But the couple things that I did bring, I brought a military blanket in here by accident. I had rolled it up in here because we were going to do it on the coast a year ago and completely forgot. And then my brother called me and he's like, man, it's going to be like 30 degrees at night. It's going to be cold. You should bring a sleeping bag instead. So brought the sleeping bag and then found the blanket in here later on. And then I also brought 2 cups of flour. I always find that, you know, out here if you got some flour you can get really creative with your cooking. The only other thing that I brought that was like store-bought is not really store-bought. The way I saw it was they're wasteland finds. I'm constantly walking around next to picnic benches and things and finding like ketchup packets, hot sauce packets, etc. Now, I didn't pick those up, but I did go around to a bunch of fast food joints and took soy sauce packets and hot sauce packets and things like that. And so my idea was I'm not eating any food out here except for what I can make with the 2 cups of flour, condiment packets, and then whatever I can forage or hunt. Yeah, that's some muddy stuff right there. Look at all that groundwater coming in. Diane's at home going, no, I'm good. And then let it completely fill. And then we'll just let it settle. So I headed off with the pellet gun to go see if I could find some game. Now I know this looks strange, a stick with a couple of nooses on the end, but I promise you there's a reason that I'm using this to transport these squirrels. These are squirrel burrows, these are ground squirrels. Nothing else at this time was in season, but you can see along these creek cuts that there's a ton of these burrows, and if you look very closely, you'll actually see a squirrel. Now these guys have a nasty reputation of not being particularly delicious, but I'm going to tell you by the end of this video that's untrue. Anyway, this was pretty far out, so I had to get a little closer, line up, and see if I could get a better shot. Like I said, I know it sounds strange to transport them on the end of a stick, but this is a safety concern, and I'll explain in a moment. We've already shot 2 squirrels with the Wasteland air gun, but Justin's going to get the fire going with a dead lighter, so we're going to do that to start with. Then we're going to make some mung stew with ground squirrel.
This is the lighter. Just turn it into a whistle.
So for sure there's no fuel in there. I remember doing that as a kid.
There you go.
Bam! Tell you what, man, that is pretty darn cool. Nothing but a spark from an old lighter with holes in it. Got some cattail we're adding, a little bit of oak twigs and some manzanita twigs as well. That's how you get a fire going with nothing but a dead lighter. It's all about surface area, you know, so you started with the really fine cattail, right?
Yeah, and so that catches a spark really easily, but they call it flash tinder because it like burns itself out super fast. It burns all the stuff on the outside, it doesn't light the stuff on the inside, so you got to keep moving it.
And that keeps new surface area, so it just keeps
exposing it to air and getting out new fuel to catch on fire.
Nice.
And then you add in a little bit larger materials like grass or cottonwood bark, which I was rubbing with my hands, and then we added some cattail, which kind of saved it because it was about to fizzle out.
And we didn't show the prep, but we had everything prepped by size and had it all ready to go, so it was like boom, 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 boom.
Hair singeing fire.
Did you get your hair?
No, but that's what we wanted for, right?
Oh yeah, oh that's right, it is a hair singeing fire. Anyway, we're gonna singe the hair off these ground squirrels. We're gonna toss them in the coals. We're gonna burn all the hair off of them because some populations carry bubonic plague. I know. Back in like the 1700s, 1800s, some European vessels came over. They had rats in their cargo hold. The rats escaped with bubonic plague, somehow encountered the ground squirrel population, and so there's these little pockets in California where they can carry that stuff. So that's why we were carrying them on a stick so that we wouldn't get any fleas jumping on us. Now we're going to drop them straight in the coals, burn off all the hair, potentially kill any fleas, and then we're going to put on gloves and we're going to clean them, and then we'll cook them for a long time. Squirrel number 2. Ooh, like a somersault entry there. Oh man, this is totally working.
Not far enough.
They get all rigid.
You're gonna have to do some creative editing for YouTube, man. You're gonna lose a lot of followers.
You think so?
Yeah.
Beautifully. I like your Wasteland knife.
Thanks.
Looks good to me, man. I'm into it. Justin, you made that your Wasteland knife out of a
Broken lawnmower blade.
A broken lawnmower blade.
So I found it on the side of the road, and it was extra big, so it's probably for like one of the landscaping ones that does like golf courses and stuff. But it works great. Yeah.
Totally works. I was really stoked when I found this pan too. Fell off the back of somebody's truck, and it was like wedged in a chain link fence next to the freeway.
That's cool.
I was like, that's a frying pan, it's mine!
Coffee can I found on the side of the road full of nails, and I threw it in the campfire already once and burned out the liner because they have a plastic liner in them. Then I washed the heck out of it in electrical wire. And then I found these pliers at the trailhead at a park, and I'll tell you, man, of all the tools that I thought I would find, pliers took a long time to find, and they're very useful. Yeah, I found another pair like at a dock where people were fishing. My buddy Eric found this hatchet head, and it was on a rotten handle that was covered in duct tape, like wrapped like 20 layers of duct tape to hold it together. So I took it off, put it on a stick, and then carved this handle, which is like I used the Wetterlings or Grand Force Burke's handle as a pattern for it.
What'd you carve that handle from?
Oh, it's a piece of manzanita.
Nice.
To see how long I need it.
That is awesome, man. Ooh, that's hot. Rolling boil.
Okay, we should probably throw our gophers in there.
Justin is tending the fire, simmering the ground squirrels. I got myself a Wasteland pot. My brother found this one in the woods. I found one too, but it wasn't quite as nice. So he brought that one for me. Yeah, I'm gonna go fill this with greens. All right, got a bunch of miner's lettuce.
The little saw. This was a broken bandsaw blade. Plan is to use it to build a chair at some point.
Justin's got his Wasteland light here. He's lighting it up. This is a wild garlic. So we're gonna cut up some of these and use them kind of like a green onion. And then, all right, here's the deal. We're gonna do 24 hours with nothing but what we can forage, with the exception of some like free condiment packets. So this one is garlic chili sauce. You know, you got your hoisin sauce, that kind of stuff. But today, because the challenge has not really started, Justin brought some lemongrass. That's the kaffir lime from Justin's garden, or
That's from Mom's garden.
From Mom's?
Lemongrass.
Right on. And then hang on a second. Wild garlic, domestic garlic, and then some ginger. Yeah. So we're gonna throw that in there. We're making a mung squirrel stew, and this is based on Hank Shaw's recipe, but apparently this is a traditional mung dish, and it is traditionally done with squirrel. Probably has not yet been done with ground squirrel around these parts. I think it's gonna be good. Pulled a piece of the ground squirrel out of the pot to give it a taste, just to be sure that it was tender enough. It is fantastic. It is so tender. Put the miner's lettuce all in there, and we're gonna garnish it with that wild garlic green.
Here, try the broth and see if it's good enough. See if you want to add anything to it.
That's beautiful. That's so good, dude. Oh yeah. It doesn't need anything, man. Ground squirrel mung stew. Let's see, we got some of the greens. Dude, that's so good.
The broth is really rich.
Oh.
Yeah, that's good. It's really good.
All right, that meat with some greens hanging off the bottom. All right, this is like crazy tender, just falling off the bone. That is super good, man.
Yeah, the meat's great. I mean, it's different than tree squirrel. It's just as good.
Mm-hmm.
And tree squirrel's pretty good for people who haven't tried it.
Oh yeah, one of my favorites. But with the skin, it's fattier too.
Mm-hmm. I noticed when we pulled it out of the pot, some of the cuts of meat had a lot of fat on it, and like there was a little bit of fat in the broth.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's just, you know, has a diet that's like more. There's a lot of oaks up here. It might be eating a lot of oak, like acorns and stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I have passed these things up my whole life. Wow.
Yeah, for me this would have been like, I would have only eaten it in a real pinch.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But it's really good. I like it with the skin on too.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure singeing a squirrel in the coals is like strange for some people, but this is how they eat a lot of food in a lot of different cultures. I had a marmot in Mongolia the same way, and a goat the same way. And so when Justin was cooking it, I'm like, wow, that's so funny. I'd catch a little smell of just, you know, before we put the spices in, it was just like the singed skin on animal in the broth. I'm like, that's so funny. It smells very familiar to me.
It doesn't smell like burning hair, but it has a unique smell.
Mm-hmm. Dude, this is so good. We will see you tomorrow. Yeah, I woke up a number of times for sure, and the bed's not as comfortable as I would like, but I mean, I probably got a solid 6 hours or so. Yeah, not bad. Survival's made a lot easier with the sleeping bag, I'll tell you that much. Totally beautiful landscape. Now we said we had to dig for water. You can see there's water right here. But this pond, the reason we're not going for any of the water in here, is absolutely jam-packed full of deadly poisonous rough-skinned newts, which appear to be in like some kind of a mating frenzy over here. Like a foursome going on there. But yeah, they're all over the place. And these guys contain one of the deadliest neurotoxins in all of California, even though they are ridiculously cute. So, since there's so little water and so much biomass of these poisonous newts in here, I don't know if their poison could actually translate to the water, but I don't plan on finding it out. So we're digging for water. Anyway, there was a story I heard a long time ago about a group of hunters that they found dead in the woods. I think they were up in Oregon somewhere. And when they opened up their coffee pot, they found one of those newts inside. So clearly the guys had walked down at night, filled up their pot of water in the creek, which I do all the time, came back, got it to a rolling boil, so it should be safe. Then they made their coffee. Nobody thought to look in the pot, and they boiled up one of those newts. And they were all dead when they found them. So you gotta be careful. We got free tea bag from a hotel that I had to stay at for archaeological excavation. That counts as a condiment packet, I think. I was just telling Justin, this is the first day in like 20 years I haven't had coffee, so I need some caffeine, I think, or I'm gonna get a headache. It's not bad. It's not coffee, but it's not bad. Check that cup out that I found. Wasteland! It's pretty cool though, right?
Yeah.
Out of an exercise band, and then the pouch is made from an old piece of a chair that I found. This is a super good find. It's an invasive mustard, incredibly delicious. We need the flour and the leaves. We're gonna cook them up. All right, we're back at the water hole and filling it up. Trying to be very delicate so that you don't stir up the sediment at the bottom of the hole. I'm thinking the flavor will probably improve with less sediment, but it's easier said than done. talk about my brother's bench here in a little bit. First things first, I got 2 cups of flour and I'm gonna make some noodles. This might need a little bit more flour on it. These Wasteland tongs came in handy. I was gonna make some and then I found some. I was pretty stoked on that. Emerald green, beautiful. So the pasta came out a little thicker than what I was thinking, but this is about how it came out last time when I did it. I did it with the $10 dollar store survival challenge and cooked up some seafood with it, and it was amazingly good. So, a lot of people don't know, but Subway, you can get olive oil packets. I don't like these single-use packets for anything other than crazy situations like this, but that's not a bad thing to keep in a survival kit. Oil goes a long way. Go to any of your pizza joints, you'll find some Parmesan cheese, you'll find your crushed red pepper, salt, you'll find that at any of your burger joints, Papa John's garlic sauce, never had it before, but I figured it's garlicky. And I know I've got a little packet of the last thing in here, also from Subway. It's a little bit of lemon juice. Acid, fat, salt, heat. It's gonna be terrible, but come on, it's the Wasteland. I'm gonna do my best here. That is for sure not the best lunch I've ever had, and yet this is pretty awesome. So I always recommend when people are putting together a survival kit to bring a few things that make them comfortable, because you're always uncomfortable out here. You know, bushcraft is about becoming comfortable by modifying your environment. But if you can bring some things that make eating greens more like eating a salad at home, you don't normally just grab some lettuce and chow down on it. So if you're stuck out here and you have to grab some greens, bring in some vinegar and oil to throw on it in these little packets, or bring in some soy sauce and some heat to throw on it and saute it up. That'll make it taste a little more like home, like what you're used to, and probably help calm you down, make you feel a little bit more, you know, at home, not panicked.
Tried that and it did work.
You tried that one and it did work?
I think so.
Nice. Yeah, dude, I think that works way better than putting grass in the fire.
Yeah.
Well, here I thought the Wasteland slingshot was going to be the coolest find with the workout band, but Justin's pellet rifle for the win. We got what, 3 ground squirrels now?
Yep.
3 ground squirrels. But while I was out hunting, I came back and Justin had made a bench. Last night he's like, yeah, these rocks aren't cutting it, I want a bench. I'm like, all right. And then like 2 hours of hunting and I come back and he's got a bench. So check this out. Let's have Justin talk it over.
Yeah, so I used this saw that I made earlier and this hatchet that my friend gave me the head that he found, and then I put a handle on it that I made. And then the bench is a tripod. So there's a tripod lashing on the top, and then I did a square lash on each of these poles that go around. And then this was Kevin's idea, was just to throw 3 more logs on it to give you a flat place to sit. And it's not bad. I wanted something that 2 people could sit on, because I didn't want to build 2 chairs. But it would be nice to have a backrest.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome though. Man, with as bad as the water tastes, those tea packets are lifesavers, but I only brought 2. So I gave this one a quick dip. Now it's drying from a tree branch, but that is monumentally better. Singed squirrel, slow cooked. Now I'm gonna put some barbecue sauce, and I might keep the sriracha off for a dipping sauce. We've got our pine brush. Yeah.
That looks pretty good.
It does look pretty good. Let's go down right here. Got this stuff. Oil and vinegar. Sriracha for a dipping sauce. Let's try with that salad first. Really simple, but I always suggest people bring some taste of home if they get lost, so that they're not just eating leaves. It's super good, man. It's like nice and spicy too. Wow! Anybody tells you ground squirrel's not good is crazy. Like, look at that meat, man. Man, this is survival in style, bro. Yeah. It's funny too, because it's like we're cooking out of a tin can. Yeah. With all tools and things that we've found. Eaten with stuff that's like marinated in ketchup packets, basically. And it's bomb. This is cottonwood inner bark here, the cambium. It seems to be like the driest stuff this morning. Everything got pretty cold last night. I put together some pine needles, some grass for a bird's nest here, a tender bundle, but it's pretty damp. I'm laying out some others on the bottom there just to dry out. And then last night, as you remember, we made our char cloth in a couple old cat food containers. We ended up making some natural char too. A bunch of other materials in there. There's a piece of chert and old lock. My brother at one point in the Wasteland was like, I found a lock, a master lock, and it throws sparks. And I was like, no way, aren't they like stainless steel or something? He's like, no, if you look at the imprint on the actual lock, it says hardened. I think I'm gonna start with the char cloth. This edge is not very sharp.
Oh,
yeah.
there you go.
Bam! A lock and a piece of chert and some char cloth and some natural charcoal extender. That's pretty dope, man. Breakfast time. Sure enough, it throws sparks. And so yeah, we cut our char cloth, and then we used some of our natural char to work as a coal extender because we had wet tinder, and it really needs a lot of heat before it's going to But Justin was saying, as far as he knows, that's the first time anybody's done that on YouTube. Got a fire going with a master lock and a piece of chert, so it's kind of cool. Justin and I just realized that we got the fire started with a flint and a lock, so it's a flint lock fire. That's what we're calling it. It's like a wall of flame. This is so beautiful. It got cold last night, folks. Not as cold as that last time we did a survival challenge out here with the Altoids tin survival kits. But no frost on the ground, but it was still cold. Better with a sleeping bag. Last time in a grass bed with no sleeping bag, whew, it got cold. All right, Justin's going to show you with the Bic lighter, the spent Bic lighter that he turned into a whistle, how that works on our natural char down here and on our char cloth that we made.
So this is something Kevin picked up. It's the stock from a piece of fennel, the inside of the stock from a piece of fennel.
Well, that was one strike?
Yeah,
dude.
one strike.
Whoa! That works super good.
So, you know, when it's a struggle to get your first fire going with these spent Bics, like, you know, we were lucky it was dry when we found the tinder we used the first night to start the fire. But once you get one fire going with a dead lighter like this, then you can make natural char. So this fennel pith works great. I've never used this before. That's awesome. There's some rotten oak in here that's a little spongy, and this stuff isn't really the best quality. But
there you go, first one.
Actually, I don't think that was. I think that was something else.
But there you go.
But yeah, so that's going, and then we've got char cloth that Kevin made, which, you know, you find cotton cloth a lot, or you can use something off of your t-shirt. Anyway, the sparks that come off of a broken Bic lighter are stronger than the sparks that come off of your flint and steel. So anything that you can light with flint and steel, you can light with a broken Bic lighter. So
Justin and I were kind of struggling this morning to find dry tinder, to get a tinder bundle together so that we could, you know, do a flint and steel fire. And I literally just realized that the top layer of my bed is all cattail and tule. And it was under this tarp the whole time, so I was literally sitting with dry tinder under my butt, and I didn't think about it. And so it's just another lesson, like when you're out and you need to get stuff done, sometimes it's important, even though it's cold, to just sit down for a moment and just think, like, is there any easier resource? For instance, this is the Wasteland. We have some napkins that we could have used that we just got at fast food joints and whatever. So whatever you can use at your disposal, just try to think outside the box.
That's one of the things I really like about it, is like you can live in town and every day be walking around on the, like, you know, walking to work or whatever and looking for items that you might be able to use, and then when you find them, you're like, okay, how can I use this in a way that will help out my kit? And it's the same concept that you would use in bushcraft when you're out in the woods with natural materials, except that you're using it with like urban materials at home. And a lot of those materials you'll end up finding out in the woods too.
Yeah. Second use out of this tea bag. Oh yeah. Justin found these gray pine cones with gray pine nuts in them. Funny enough, this is totally not the season, and yet these are, I mean, they have been actually good. Season's supposed to be back in October, November. See that? That's a gray pine nut right in there. But we're gonna make some kind of a mildly sweet bread in the coals on this piece of cast iron that he found. So I'm mixing up 2 sugar packets in here with a little bit of hot water. I'm gonna add my pine nuts in. I think I'm gonna leave the sheaths on this time. Usually I take that sheath off, but take it off. This is our cast iron. Clearly this used to be in the street, but it was in the river, so it's been cleaned like for probably 20 years. We're gonna throw that in there and get it super hot, and then hopefully when our bread goes on there, it's gonna have the meter impression in it. I wish I had brought that honey though. That'd be a nice little addition at the end. Kind of like a tortilla press. Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah. Bam. All right. Simple bread, pine nuts, sugar. Yeah. Let's go for it. Got a little sweet.
Yeah, it's good.
I think it could have used a little salt.
That's what I was gonna say.
And if it was topped with a little bit of honey, this would be bomb.
I don't think it needs the honey. I mean, it's really nice on day 3 to have hot bread. I'll tell you that. That's pretty nice.
Dude, those pine nuts you found are awesome, man.
Yeah, you can tell it needs a little bit of salt, but otherwise, it's totally good. It's like, it's kind of like naan, like texture-wise. You know, it's not as crunchy. I thought it was gonna be more like a cracker when you were describing how you're gonna make it.
Yeah,
but
it's a little chewier.
Uh-huh.
The sugar definitely comes through. I agree, though. I should have put a pinch of salt in there.
We had some in the condiment package.
Oh, yeah, totally. There's one. Pine nut?
Yeah,
Right there?
I've got a couple up. I just got one, yep. Yeah, they're good.
All right, we're going to break camp. It is now 11:29. We started this at 11, so we survived! What are some of your favorite Wasteland finds?
Okay, I made this knife out of a lawnmower blade, and it's been very useful. This flashlight I found on a levee. One of the most unusual things that I found was a ferro rod. I found a backpack in the river that had been out for like over a year. It had this ferro rod in it, and it had like a really crummy compass, magnifying glass, thermometer, whistle combination thing, and nothing else in it. And my buddy found a hatchet head on a really junked out handle, and he gave it to me, and I put it in the fire, burned out the handle, buried the head so it wouldn't wreck the heat treatment, put it on a stick, and then carved a new handle for it. But I think the best thing that I found was this, and it's a 177 caliber pellet gun. My buddy actually found it in the river and didn't want it. He didn't take it home, and a couple weeks later he told me about it, and I asked him where it was, and he kind of gave me some directions, and I spent about an hour looking around and found it. So Justin's not telling you what another one of the coolest items that I think has ever been found in the Wasteland, which is you found a canoe. Yeah, Coleman canoe. My buddy found it, and he asked me if I wanted it, so we went out and brought it home. Someone had brought it out to the river and abandoned it. It had a hole in the hull, so it wasn't really, usable anymore. But we brought it home, and I took some milk jugs and a torch lighter that I found, and was able to melt the milk jugs, which are the same kind of plastic the canoe's made out of, and melt the canoe and patch one of the holes. Yeah, we do have a usable canoe, but like Kevin said, there's no water around here for this trip.
So that makes me think we're gonna have to do Wasteland number 2 on a river. I found not nearly as cool stuff. I tell you, I was like stoked out of my mind when I found an exercise band on the side of the road. I thought just maybe I'll find one. So I made myself a little slingshot. The pouch is made out of an old chair that I found. And very first shot with this thing, walloped a can, and I was like, all right. Of course, when he told me he found a pellet gun, I'm like, that's what we're gonna rely on. A bunch of random stuff. I found a barbecue in the woods, so I got a grill we could cook on. A really good tarp. It was like a drop cloth from like a painter or something. I found that in the highway. Pots and pans, and everybody thinks, oh, you'd never find a knife. I found this knife, and then I found my Wasteland knife, which is in my pack, and then I found like 4 more knives. I found a compass. We found all kinds of cool stuff.
The sleeping bags aren't like that big of a cheat because we find them pretty frequently out in the woods, and we drove by one on the way up here. There was one on the side of the road.
Yeah, we both just decided. I found blankets too. We both just decided, like, we don't know who's been sleeping in those blankets, why they've been abandoned, if they're coming back. Sometimes you can clearly see they're not coming back, but they don't look like anything you want to sleep in, and so we're like, yeah, that's a cheat that we're willing to give ourselves. Yeah, in all honesty, this has been the funnest bushcraft challenge I've ever done, and I'm super stoked. I got to do it with my brother. Boom! Before we sign out, We want to challenge 2 more bushcraft channels, 2 that we really enjoy, to take on this challenge and do it their own way. The first channel is Junkyard Fox. Check him out if you haven't seen him. Does a lot of gear reviews, a lot of survival stuff. And the other one is Smooth Gefixed. They're some of our favorites. Smooth Gefixed does all kinds of crazy challenges, really fun people. We know that both of these channels will be able to do something really cool with this challenge. So we're going to challenge them, and with that, we're going to sign off. We hope you enjoy. Give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Give us a comment, and until next time, keep the old ways alive. Am I saying that right? Is it? People say hamong, people say mung.
I've heard mung, but
hamong?
I don't know.
I need to learn how to say that. Those people are cool. You know what I mean? Like, that culture, they're just all about hunting and fishing and foraging and our kind of people. Shit, dude. This is hillbilly fusion at its best, or worst, I'm not sure. A third of a gopher would only arouse my appetite without quite bringing her back down again. That's totally delicious, dude.
Well, that's good that you like it, because I think this is the only thing you're going to have to eat for 3 days.